More frequently asked questions about the new upgrade system. The conversation, folks, has just begun on this. And so we're going to dive in. We're going to read it. And we're going to react to it a little bit. And this is coming from the dude who made the original blog post. Question: this seems awfully complicated. Why can't you just give us more valor? They say that one of the philosophical underpinnings of this system is that we want to encourage players to challenge themselves when they want to improve their character's power. Farming low-level keys is not challenging for most players who routinely time keys in the teens or higher. There are a lot of moving pieces to the system because it's been engineered to handle all kinds of situations in an effort to more closely align doing the optimal thing with doing the fun thing, while still keeping the base player experience simple. And some of the complication is there specifically to minimize the losses for making mistakes. We don't want people punished for upgrading the wrong thing. Kill stuff, get flight stones. Kill hard stuff, get crests too. Take flight stones and crests to item upgrade vendor. Item upgrade vendor tells you how much it'll cost, and upgrade the gear as long as you can afford it. If you didn't read the blog post from last week at all, but you took an item to an upgrade vendor and read the tooltips for crests and flight stones, you'd get enough of the gist to use the system just fine. So he's straight up calling people out. That, and that was kind of the thing. That was the source of a lot of ire in part of mid to high level players, is that they would go all the way down to twos, farm twos to get the gear that they wanted to get, and then upgrade it with Valor, which would lead to the complaint about Valor caps. Blizz, we want Valor caps. And at the time, when I was first hearing about this, I'm like, why do you need Valor caps? Like, why aren't you just like farming like the good stuff? Why are you farming low-level things? Because that's hardly optimal. But that's, again, where the critique came from. People wanted the unleashed Valor cap so they could just farm twos and go that way. Then they can start playing the game. It's funny because, in a way, this whole sense of the path of least resistance, it's kind of like players creating their own Torghast. They created this whole thing of, oh, I'm going to farm twos and just slam Valor all day and night as their side thing before they could start playing the game. Because that's how, some of these players defined it. They separated those things. Whereas with what they're trying to do here, and you may not agree with this, but what they're trying to do here is to try to make it the same thing. You're gearing up and you're challenging yourself at the same time. So they're taking away that easy route. Why can't you just give us more Valor? Because they want to challenge you more, I guess. So, question. The article you wrote talks about how gear from Mythic Raid bosses can be upgraded in the intro, then goes on to detail how gear cannot be upgraded once you get to Mythic Raid level. That should have said, or a heroic raid boss. Okay, kind of a typo there. Does this system and its hard caps mean that I have to get the same item again from every upgrade track? I need to farm my best in slot trinket at veteran, then again at champion, then again at hero. While that's, I already have a personal answer for this, but while that's certainly an option, it's not required. No. Getting an item on the veteran upgrade track means that the item can be upgraded to veteran 8 out of 8, which is the same item level as champion 4 out of 8, which is only 4 item levels lower than hero 1 of 5. If you upgrade your gear to veteran 8 of 8, you'll be more than ready to do content that drops hero track gear. That said, this is a known concern and we're looking at options. I can't promise any specific results because there are a lot of moving parts going on here, but this is under active investigation. We won't be making any changes to address this concern in the very early weeks of the patch, but if it turns out that the data bear out this concern, we'll step in. Thanks to player feedback, we've developed a contingency plan. Now, is this Chime says don't delete your trinkets from +2 keys? If you like. We're being careful here with the rollout of this new system. It might mean that those items will still be useful later, and it might not. This is not a promise at all. But if I were still a player on the other side of blue posts like this, reading those words of a blue poster just typed, I would keep mine around just in case. The thought that I have here is related to the original. I'm sorry, it's related to the first question. How often is someone going to be, going from veteran and then champion and then hero? I would imagine that like no one's going to play veteran until they have bets in slot and then move up to harder difficulties. They're going to push with what they have because that's gaming, right? That's the challenge that gamers give themselves. Work with what you have. And I think it's going to be, I would imagine that once you get to champion and hero, that's when you're going to be that's where you're going to be playing the most, I should say. I think that's how I should have been leading off. You're not going to stay at these low level ranks forever unless that's your play level. You're going to kind of skip through things that are trivial fairly quickly, and then you're going to be playing at your own pace. Now there is going to be like that. Okay, I've been here for a while. Now I'm moving here. I happen to get best in slot stuff here, but now I'm moving. But now I have enough gear to get here, and now I feel bad. I think that's where this developer is. That's kind of where he's talking about. Hey, we might do something about this, but I think largely the idea is you'll be jumping between two levels, and probably not like every level. Because how long are you going to stay down there, right? So here in chat, someone's asking, does this mean I need to farm that one best in slot trinket 3 times? No, you don't. Because if you're playing, and you happen to, not get a certain piece of gear when you start doing Mythic Plus, but you happen to get it later on, obviously you're not farming your best in slot trinket 3 times because you just ended up moving up into higher content anyway. What I think people are kind of gaslighting themselves into is that is the idea that, oh, I have to get my best gear in order to even play. And that's not true at all. There's a lot of folks in here that have also been complaining, dude, I got my plus 20, I'm Keystone Hero, and I still haven't got my best trinket. This is stupid. And, I get that critique, but you got there without it. So scenarios may exist where you're going to get like, oh, I've been farming 2s, I happen to get the best trinket, and now I'm not seeing like a better one now that it's like 7-8 weeks into the season, and that feels bad. I get that, but that's kind of the luck of it too. May not like it, but I don't think it's as hyperbolic as what some people are suggesting here. All right, okay, but we don't know. Back to the questions. Okay, but we don't know exactly where hero track gear comes from. For that matter, we don't know where each level of Shadow Flame crests will come from either. Can you clear that up? Sure thing, he says. In retrospect, that would have been good to include in the initial blog post. I omitted it because it seemed like the post was already longer than most players would want to read, and I wanted to focus on the system itself. But yes, how players will get the items to interact with the system is worth specific inclusion, so here goes. And I hope I'm right, because I assumed that it was implied in the original post. Let's see how wrong I am. Please keep in mind that these details, just like everything else in the PTR, is subject to change. As a reminder, 15 fragments combine into a full crest. Okay, so the Whelpling stuff, easy stuff. Outdoor content will have Whelpling Shadowflame crest fragments all over. World quests, random treasures, non-elite unique creatures, and so on and so forth, and some sources that haven't been revealed quite yet. There shouldn't be any shortage of these crests for folks who want to go collect them, and this is the most likely situation in which players will hit the Crest Acquisition cap. Mythic Keystones up to 5 will drop Whelpling's Shadowflame Crest fragments. There's a significant bonus for timing the key. You get 5 fragments for completing, but 12 if you complete in time. In Aberrus Raid Finder, that's also going to drop Whelpling Crest fragments. Most bosses will drop 10, and end bosses will drop 15, which can be made into a full crest immediately. Shadowflame crests. I'm gonna try to read this a little faster and just get right to like where these things will drop. So it's gonna drop from outdoor stuff. Oops. It's going to drop from outdoor content, from unique creatures, elites, and the weekly wrapper and some scheduled content will offer a healthy amount of these Drake's level stuff as well. There will be more limited in outdoor content, but dedicated players will be able to collect multiple Drake crests per week. Mythic 6 to 10 is going to drop the Drake level stuff, and normal will drop the stuff. And then when we get to Worm, 11 through 15, and as well as the heroic bosses, and then finally the aspect one. This is the one that I was really curious about. So aspect is 16. Oh, so it is back to 16 still. So 16s will drop these. And mythic. This is gonna have implications. This has especially because of the item level of crafted gear that I've seen so far. But I'll talk about this in a little bit. Maybe I'll try to bring up my spreadsheet, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. For clarity on all the above, these crests do not have a chance of dropping. They will drop every time. Acquisition is purely deterministic, just depending on doing stuff. Note that the Shadowflame crests are intentionally available at some key levels below the gear that would require them for early upgrades. For example, an 11 Mythic Keystone provides Worm fragments. This allows players at this level of play to upgrade their champion level gear above the 4 to 8 level, and creates a reason to run this more challenging content above the 9 that also drop the gear. Okay, so veteran track gear available in limited quantity. Okay, so this is just talking about the gear that drops. So veteran stuff is going to drop from the weekly stuff and up to +8. Raid Finder Abris will drop gear on this track. Yeah, I think I might need to like do some either big adjustments, or this will be fun to check out. Yeah, I got a little bit of work to do on this. Okay, the new world boss will drop gear on the champion track. See, it's funny because now we're seeing things, instead of like having exact item level drops, we're seeing things fall in like brackets, which is gonna seem confusing at first. Let's see, a Great Vault will award gear on this track for Mythic Keystones up to +7, and normal gear. And then on the hero track, okay, so Mythic gear. So Mythic gear is easy to understand. Hero track gear, you need to do at least 15s. And heroic. Okay, so the Great Vault will award gear above the upgrade system's range for Mythic Keystones 16 and higher. So why cap upgrades at all? This is a very important question that people have been asking too. Their answer is that because this is a nearly universal system, it includes things like outdoor gear. We're going from a world where the Valor system only lets people who play a lot of Mythic Plus upgrade their gear, to a world where everyone gets to upgrade their gear, even folks who are focused on outdoor play. The challenge here is that we're still creating specific gear ecosystems for competitive players. We don't want to create a world in which players need to run off-season Mythic Zeros to get their best in slot gear. We don't want players feeling like they need to watch World Quest to find the trinket that they need for raiding, and we don't want to create incentives for players optimizing for Mythic raids to spend extra time to do normal raids in order to get the best items. We want players to get their best rewards when they're challenging themselves, and we want to minimize the amount of farming easy to them content that you need to do. Again, people are being called out for just doing like easy stuff, and it's kind of a good thing too, because by limiting these sources of useful gear to content that is closer to that player's level, it eases that, it kind of frees up their bandwidth. Imagine if this was like a do anything go anywhere sort of system. People are going to feel like they've got to do everything every week, every day. And you're going to find conflicts where, hey, I'm on my main, I want to switch to my alt, but I could be doing this much more on my main this week in order for them to get like their best in slot gear. I can't play my alt, and so I think that's worth paying attention to as well. All right, third question. These item names, Flight Stones, Shadow Flame Crest, are really specific to Dragonflight. Why not give them names that would work for a more evergreen system? Well, for starters, this system is not evergreen. Bam! The system is specifically for 10.1 in Season 2. It's certainly designed with the potential for it to be evergreen, but it'll be evaluated over the course of the season. We can't tell you whether it'll be here in Season 3 because we don't know yet. There is a tentative plan for naming these upgrade components going forward, though. If the system continues in Season 3, we'll swap out Shadow Flame for an adjective that's more appropriate to the theming of the season. So, Season 3, you'd collect a Season 3 version of Flight Stones, plus Whelplings, something, and so on and so forth. Each season would change the adjective on the crest, and each expansion would change the name of the levels of crest to something that's more appropriate to the expansion theme, and the name Flightstone would probably change into something thematically appropriate as well. I want to stress that this is a tentative plan and could easily change, and that's assuming we keep the system. Right now, speaking only for myself and not the rest of the development team, I think it's very likely we keep it and make small iterative improvements. But I could also see a world where it's not quite the improvement to gearing that we're looking for, and we either return to the previous system or try something new for Season 3. The simple truth is that none of us can see the future, but this is what we're trying for Season 2. For Shadowflame Crests, are we limited to how many times we can get them or how many times we can use them? The cap is on acquisition. Every time you would get a crest fragment, the game tracks how close you are to cap and only gives you enough to reach that cap. So if you've already earned 140 Whelpling Crest fragments in the first week, and you would get another 12 crest fragments for finishing a +2 keystone in time, because you're checking fragments away from the cap, you'll only get those 10 fragments. Once you have those crest fragments, you can combine them into crests freely. And once you have the crests, you can spend them freely at item upgrade vendors. The cap increases by 150 things weekly. The cap does not apply to rewards from one-time quests. You'll always be able to get those, and they won't count against future earnings either, or from downgrading your crests for whatever. Okay, so I am off stream right now. I'm not broadcasting right now, but I wanted to at least take a look at this chart, kind of go over what changes you're going to expect to see if you were to click click and take a look at the spreadsheet that I have in the description below. And I want to show you like the changes that I made according to what we had just learned. So from the looks of it, I added where crests will drop from end of dungeon rewards from Mythic Plus. So you can see running keys 0 through 5 will get the Whelpling Crest, 6 through 10 will get the Drake one, 11 through 15 will give the Worm, and then the 16 and higher will give the Aspect Crest. Now, at a glance, it seems pretty clear to me that running 16s is going to be the kind of meta in terms of, hey, how am I going to get like the bestest gear? By getting an Aspect Crest, by farming 16s, you'll be able to, and doing a lot of it, by the way. I think you need 4 of those enchanted crests in order to make, in order to like get a piece of gear all the way up to like the mythic level. Once you do, that's kind of it. You'll be able to make gear that's on par with like the best of the best outside of whatever mythic gear is coming out. But you'll be able to make what is basically plus 20 gear from the vault, which, you know, there's kind of a give and take here. Now, if you're able to run 20s, you're able to get the best gear. If you're only able to run 16s, you're also able to get the best gear. Of course, once you overcome the availability of the new sparks that are coming in Season 2. So in that case, people in that lane, they're going to be, you know, time gated. They're only going to be able to get a spark every 2 or so weeks, maybe. We're still not quite sure what the schedule on that is going to be. But there certainly is a path for people who don't play at that level to get pretty close to that level. Now, as for the lower crests, like the Whelpling and the Drake stuff, while I'm identifying these by keys, you can sort of see here, doing Raid Finder is what's going to get you the Whelpling crest. The normal will get you the Drake one. The heroic will get you the worm, and the mythic will get you the aspect crest. The whelpling and the drake one, that's now fairly understood that whelpling will drop like anywhere, and drake crests will drop from a bit more rare content. So like I believe it was described as the world boss, the weekly chest that you're going to see down in the Zerolite caverns and what have you. And then the worm and the aspect crest are going to be limited to like later game content, higher keys, normal and higher, I'm sorry, heroic and higher raids. That's kind of how that is. So that's kind of what I wanted to end this off with. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys for the next thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.